Today I'll be showing some game-changing rigging modifications that you can use on your favorite plastic baits. I'll walk you through a number of various unconventional rigging techniques that I guarantee you will increase your success. It's going to be simple, it's going to be easy, we're going to sit down, we're going to do it right now. All right, here we are once again on the beautiful California Delta, and I've got a good one for you today. We're talking about making some modifications to plastic baits that will increase your success. Now, if you are a bass fisherman, I know you're using plastic baits. The modifications that we will talk about today, we're going to be talking about changing out hooks and experimenting with different hooks on different plastic baits. So whether you are fishing plastic worms, crayfish imitations, paddle tail swim baits, whatever type of plastic bait you're using, these modifications can be adapted into your style of fishing. I'm going to talk about the modifications and how I have been fishing these for actually many years now. And it's one of those things you do and you kind of don't talk about it a lot, and you get to a point, especially if you get a YouTube channel, you say, what do I need to talk about to give my my audience some juice so they can go out there and start catching fish? Well, this is one of those videos for me. So we'll talk about hook modifications and how seemingly minor adjustments or minor modifications can really pay some big dividends. So let's get into it. Let's just be realistic. Most of us are using a T-rig plastic bait, a Texas rig plastic bait. Oh, and by the way, this isn't for raw beginners. I'm hoping that everybody will understand the terminology. So everyone's using these plastic baits, and they're using T-rigs or some variation of a T-rig, a Carolina rig, a Janka rig, a Tokyo rig, whatever it may be. And all of these rigs work, and all of these rigs have a place in bass fishing. But one of the things that I think gets overlooked is simply the style of hook that you're using. The hooks are the foundation of this modification system that we're going to be talking about. I am not locked into any particular brand. Whatever brand of hook that you feel comfortable with, go with that brand. This is not sponsored. I'm just out here giving you some information to help you, maybe on a few of your next trips, expand your plastic bait and your plastic bait applications. So let's go over these three hooks. First of all, I believe this is an owner brand weighted beast hook. As you can see, it's got the weight pinned onto the shank of the hook. That's an owner brand beast hook. The next thing, it's another owner hook, and we have a weighted flashy swimmer. That's what this is called. I think it's on a beast hook. It's got a weight pinned onto the shank of the hook, and it's got a Colorado blade to add flash. And the way that you're going to connect the bait on this is through this little I call it a pin clip or whatever, a clip from on the front of the hook. And last but not least, there's kind of a newcomer on the market. I've been talking about this one. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. This is a hook that is made by BKK. It's a company from Japan, and it has what they call I'm going to have to look this up. It is called a Armor Point Permalock weight. It has the weight attached to the front of the hook, and this weight is what's going to hold the plastic bait on. So between these three hooks, there are hundreds of different options that you have, especially when it comes to the numbers of plastic baits. The first option I'm going to talk about is the old Zoom horny toad. Everybody uses this. A lot of people will put a mosquito hook in the nose. They'll use it as a topwater hook. They'll rig this with a small weight in front of it, Texas style. And by the way, most of these plastic baits that we'll talk about, whether they're toads, worms, beavers, creature baits, whatever it may be, 90% of the time they're getting fished in some form or another of a Texas rig, whether it's Texas rig, Alabama rig, Jenker rig, you know, some variation of that rig. And they all have their place in bass fishing. Just like the techniques that I'm going to be talking about, I hope will find a place in your bass fishing. So what we have here is a standard Zoom horny toad, generally fished with a small Texas rig weight in front of the nose, and it is a very effective bait. For those of you who watch the channel, you know that I take that flashy swimmer, and this is how I fish the horny toad. What this does, it gives this bait more weight so you can fish it deeper. It gives it flash so that it has a little more attraction, especially in maybe in some stained water where you might want a little more vibration. And fishing this with a Texas style is a good way to go. I don't want to tell you guys don't fish it that way, because with a small weight you can throw this over pads and stuff and just kind of pull it over the top of it, drop it into holes, things of that nature, and it's a very effective bait. But when you put this weighted beast hook, and this is the owner flashy swimmer with the blade on it, it almost acts like a crankbait. You can fish it deeper. You can still throw it over lily pads or surface vegetation. This will come over the top of it very nicely, and it will attract fish to come out of the heavy cover. And then when you get to the edge, you drop it down or you throw it in a hole, whatever you do with that. It's just going to increase the drawing power of this toad, and it can be any toad on the market. It doesn't have to be a Zoom. The other thing that I do with this, and I haven't talked about it, and I didn't even realize I was doing it, on the retrieve on this, I'm using what I'm going to call a hover stroll retrieve. And I didn't really know what hover strolling was up until about a year ago. I went out with my partner Christian, and Christian is pretty in depth with that, and we started hover strolling. And that's a technique where you're throwing your bait out and just kind of twitching it and reeling, twitching and reeling, and it's giving the bait, just kind of keeping the bait in place. You're reeling very slowly, but the bait is just giving it some animation, and that has really caught on in the last couple of years. And when I went out with Christian, we started catching fish. I said, you know, that's exactly the way that I am fishing this horny toad. So when you use this technique, throw it out, reel very slowly, and we're not going to be jerking this. What you want to do is just kind of give it the palsy shake, and very slowly, so that this bait is coming through the water very slowly. It's not moving out of strike zones, but these tails, and as you do this, check these baits out with a visual inspection as you're doing this, so you know what they're looking like. This thing just comes to life, and instead of moving through the water real quickly and just you know, having a total reaction bite, what this does, it'll move slowly through the water. It will attract fish. Fish will come up, and as it's doing all this motion, they just seem to want this bait. So give that a try. Now, with this flashy swimmer, one of the other things you could do is put it on a paddle tail swim bait. Everybody loves to throw these paddle tail swim baits, whether they're Key Tech or whatever brand you're using, just on a kind of a ball head style jig where you put the hook in it. You've got an exposed hook. Works great. It's tried and true, and it is a great way to go. But there's a lot of times when that exposed hook, especially if you're in an area that has a lot of vegetation, is not going to work. So at that point, you can either take the flashy swimmer, and again, this has a screw lock hook on it, so we'll just put this in here, and again, I know you guys all know how to run these screw lock hooks. You're going to screw it on, and what I like to do is when I screw this on, I'll hold the bait like this, and because I want the bait to be straight, I want it to be, as I just hold this bait down like this, I know I can put the hook in there now, and the bait's going to be straight. So I don't like to have it under, you know, backwards or hanging like this or like this. I like to have it just like it's going to be on the hook. We're going to take this, we're going rig it just like we would normally do. And here we have a flashy swimmer on a paddle tail. Again, this is a killer. Clearwater lakes, you're throwing this thing out, you're having a good time just with the open hook. All of a sudden the bite dies, or maybe you can't get it down deep enough or whatever. These flashy swimmers will enhance any paddle tail swim bait. Now here's another thing that I want to talk about, especially for you guys that are smallmouth bass fishing. When I was fishing a lot up in Canada, this is a technique that I used that I don't think the fish saw it up there, because most of the people that are fishing the plastics up there are throwing them on just your standard round ball head type jig. Works great, but what we're talking about is a small grub, a little white grub. These catch everything up, you know, if you're on a body of water that has smallmouth bass. You also have probably some type of perch, barred perch. You probably have some walleye, and these little paddle tail or these little grubs do a great job. What you can do is the owner. This is I think a 5/0 hook. You can get these in much smaller hook sizes, and they'll fit the little paddle tail, or excuse me, the little grubs. And let me just rig one of these up real quick on the appropriate size hook. And what this turns into right now is an absolute smallmouth killer. For some reason, and let me make sure you take a look at that. For some reason, there's a lot of times when the smallmouth seem to be clued into a little more flash, or they want a bait that just has a little more animation. This is a killer. And by the way, if you're out here on the California Delta and you don't think little stuff like this catches fish, you're missing out, especially here in the summertime when it's just super tough fishing. You can't get bit. You want to get some fish. You're not trying to win a tournament. You want to get some keeper size fish. Take your standard Delta baits off and try one of these. You'll catch a lot of fish. If you've got if you're teaching someone to fish, spinning rod, 8-pound test, 1/4 ounce weight, these are killer out here. You'll catch a few crappie, you'll catch some bass. If you're taking your kids, your grandkids out, this is an absolute killer out here. So that's the flashy swimmer. And again, the other things that you can use with this, any type of beaver. I like the kinky beavers. When you put a beaver or a crayfish imitation on that flashy swimmer, I automatically speed up my retrieve. So when I'm trying to cover water, I like having that beast hook with either the flashy swimmer with the blade on it, or maybe even the flashy swimmer that just has, or excuse me, the beast hook that just has the built-in weight. Now, if you're using this with just the built-in weight, when I say this, I should explain what this is. This is a kinky beaver or a standard beaver, whatever you're using. I'm going to put this on not necessarily a flashy swimmer, but a weighted beast hook. We're going to get that in there, and this is what we have with this bait. Now, why is this any different than a standard T-rig? Because the way that the weight is distributed, as you throw it out, it's not going to go like this. Now, if you are punching and you're trying to get through surface vegetation, this may not be your best rig. But if you are throwing in flats where you have 1 to 3 feet of water, there's a lot of vegetation, this is going to drop down, and as it comes through vegetation, it's going to come through nicely. It's not going to get hung up as much. You're going to be able to get it through there, twitch it. The bait has a lot of built-in motion, and when I'm using this, I would prefer the kinky beaver, which has a little different tail structure and a little more motion on it. It's a little larger, a little less compact than the beaver. You can also fish a beaver like this and just pitch it out and pitch it to the base of tules and things like that. That's what you're going to want to do with that one. Another bait that you'll want to use with either the flashy swimmer or the weighted beast hook, give it a try with your standard kind of, we'll call them brush hog type baits. These respond very well to those underspins, and you can fish them faster. Anything with legs on it that has animation that you generally kind of twitch and pull, give them a try. Next, we're going to talk about a BKK hook. You've been hearing me talk about this a lot, and this is the hook with the weighted screw lock. So this is actually going to go. The weight is going to actually go inside the bait. I have one here, kind of halfway rigged up, and let's see, what do I have here? This is one of these Crush City Bronco bugs, and let me pull this off here. So what we'll do is we're going to just take the Bronco bug, or if you have any type of crayfish imitation, Bronco bug, net baits, crays have a lot of great ones. Geez, I'm trying to think of it. You know, I'm getting old and I lose my train of thought here a lot. But any type of craw imitation, you're going to take this and just squeeze it on it and put it into the weight. So here's a little bonus tip. This is the Bronco bug with that nice little BKK hook in it. I have been catching fish on this thing, shoot, for the last month now here on the California Delta. It is so versatile. I can pitch it out. I did a whole video on this. I'll put that up so you guys, if you haven't seen that Bronco bug video, you can watch that. But this is so versatile. I can twitch it. I can pitch it to bases of tules. I can do a lot of things with it. But one thing that I found is with this bug, or any plastic that you have, they're going to get torn up. So one of the things that I try to do is figure out how I can save a little time on the water. And this is for you guys that may be fishing tournaments. So bonus tip here. Let's say you've got this, and this is your go-to bait. You know you're catching fish on them. This is my bait right now. But let's say you've got a toad or your own crayfish imitation. What I've been doing is using a little bit of super glue on the weight, so that before I do the rigging, I'm putting a little super glue right on the weight, and then I am rigging the bait standard, and I'm doing this at home before I ever get out on the water. I'll rig 4 or 5 of these, and these here are already rigged up, they're in a Crush City bag, and they all happen to all be Bronco bugs. But if I was to pull the baits out of this, number one, I don't want to pull them out too much because they stink. I've got a bunch of scent on them. Here's a Bronco bug with a flashy swimmer. These are Bronco bugs in here that have the BKK hooks on them, but they're all rigged up and they are glued into place. I put usually about 6 or 8 of them in a bag like this. I put my scent in them, and I keep this on the deck. So this does a couple of things. Number one, it's going to save a lot of baits, because when you glue that head of whatever plastic it is on these BKK hooks, they don't pull off. I can almost guarantee you this. When they do get torn off, if the legs get pulled off, when you pull these off of the bait, you're going to have to take a little knife and scrape the plastic off of them in order to use them again. But what I do to save myself time, and it has a double, I found that it has a double bonus. I catch a few fish on this, maybe it gets torn up, it's time to change my bait. Instead of re-rigging, I cut it off, and I get my bag, and I take one of my Bronco bugs that's already rigged up, if I can grab one here, and Jesus Christ, I take this bait, and it's already rigged up, and I just tie a new one on. It's already full of scent, and it's already got the head glued in to the hook. So it's all ready to go. Now that's the first benefit. It's quicker for me to do that, and it's easy, but it forces me to, once I catch 2 or 3 fish on this bait, or 4 or 5 fish, whatever it is, and it gets tore up, it forces me to redo my knot and get that first couple inches of monofilament line that may be chewed up from going over rocks, could be chewed up from fish mouth, could be a lot of things. But if you're lazy like I am, it forces me to cut the bait, retie it. I've got a new knot, I've got a new bait. Everything is beautiful and lovely. So a little bonus tip there. What else are we going to talk about here? Oh, these weighted hooks. Here's a weighted beast hook. Fantastic hooks for worms. And we've got one here, and this hook's a little big, but I like to use the big 10-inch power worms a lot, especially if I'm fishing at low light times, early morning, late in the evening, or if I'm fishing after dark. So I'm going to screw one of these big 10 or 12-inch power worms on. I'm going to rig it just like we normally do. And again, this is going to allow the bait to fall in a little different motion. And I really like this weight when it comes to fishing curly tail or ribbon tail worms, because rather than going like this and just going to the bottom, it kind of gives it a different elevation as it's falling, and the bait kind of moves instead of like this, it's kind of bent and moving the tail a little different. Once you get this down in the vegetation, you can pop it right through there. Extremely weedless. And again, you're fishing a flat, you've got 2 or 3 feet of vegetation. You throw this thing out here, and you could use quite a bit of weight on this. Let it get down into the vegetation and just slowly pull it through. Twitch it, stop it, pull it through. Excellent way to go with these big power worms. Another thing that's been going well here in the Delta, it's post-spawn. There's a lot of small bass in the river. A lot of the bigger fish are turning on them. They're starting to eat the fry. When it comes to fishing flukes, again, whether you're using a white fluke to represent a minnow or a bait fish of some type, this time of year, a lot of times I'll be using, I think this might even be a caffeine shad here or something. Whatever type of fluke you're using. Generally, you're fishing this with a little mosquito hook or a ball head sinker with an exposed hook. These little BKK hooks, I don't know that I have one. Oh, here's the other thing is, it really, we've got a couple of the BKK hooks. One's, I don't know, maybe a 4/0, one's maybe a 2/0. I'm going to take the appropriate size hook, and on these fluke style baits, I'm going to throw this BKK hook on there, and once again, you've got a totally weedless hook. The weight's in the middle, and it gives this thing a totally different look. Try these BKK, again, they're called the Arrow Point Permalock weighted hook. Try them on your flukes. Throws out, instead of dropping straight like this, it just drops more naturally, and as it comes through the water, instead of like this, like a crayfish, this comes through and it falls straight down, and as it twitches, it doesn't move its head. Bait fish go from side to side. They don't necessarily go straight up, straight down. So this type of hook with the bait centered, or the weight centered more in the middle of the bait, it's going to give it a nice fall, so that when you start twitching it, it doesn't do this very unnaturally. It does this. Hope that makes some sense to you. One last bonus I'm going to give you. I talked about the paddle tail swim baits. Let me pull one of those out and we're going to compare this. The Keitech or the Kitech or any of these paddle tail swim baits, great bait. Here's one that I really like. It is called the Spark Shad from Mega Bass, and this is just kind of a bonus tip. And again, this Spark Shad, when you put a Spark Shad on a flashy swimmer, this happens to be, I think, the 3 or 4 inch. Go with the 5 or 6 inch. You're up at Clear Lake, 5-inch Spark Shad. It's got kind of a hitch color. They make one with kind of a brown back, kind of looks like a hitch or a carp. You put this on either a weighted beast hook or this flashy swimmer, and I'm telling you guys, this is a Clear Lake killer. It's a smallmouth killer. Any of the lakes up north seem, I'm going to probably get in trouble for this, but if you go up to Trinity Lake. Don't leave a spark shad at home. And if you want to really be cool and get something extra out of it, bring some of these flashy swimmers. That's the spark shad. I definitely wanted to get that in there. So again, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button. Please leave a comment. Tell me you like the video or you think you hate my guts, whatever it is. I don't care. As long as you make a comment, it's supposed to help the algorithm, so that's good for me. I make another penny or something. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video and experiment. Like I said, I showed you 3 hooks. I showed you about 10 different baits. There's a million baits out there, and they could be rigged in so many different ways. You can experiment for the next 3 or 4 years just with what I've talked to you about what we're doing in the last 15, 20 minutes here. So thanks again. Get out there catching fish. If you guys are on the Delta, send me your weekly reports, send me some pictures, and until then, good luck. We'll see you guys on the river.